I'm driving. I don't see a lot of houses around. And I see a possum go scurry across the road. And I go, I'm thinking, we're not in Kansas anymore. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was new at this. I was just learning how to use Google Maps. Wow. Woo. Woohoo. Yeah. Meanwhile, Arizona is notorious for closures. Ain't that the truth? For the interstates, America had the U.S. highways. On my left, I see an old cemetery. You know, the old cemeteries? And I'm like, I wasn't sure if I was going to start seeing. I really did think, what if I break down out here? I could be killed. And I almost could see Jason with his mask on, walking with a knife, you know, coming down the road. Route 66. Now, you know, that's famous. And I travel Route 66 almost every day. It's called the Big Dig. Cost $14.6 billion. So who paid for this? Let's do some fun facts. Okay, here we go. Who paid for this big thing? I mean, it was, can you imagine the cost of this? If you're in van life, you're going to drive on roads. Let's talk about roads. Roads. All types of roads. Now, I have my teleprompter here. I didn't memorize everything, so I got to have my notes, okay? Now, this is going to be fun. I'm Minivan Lee. I live in my minivan. Do you like it? And I have lived in a minivan for 8.5 years. I'm telling you, years. And I love it. This is my second minivan. And I've had a YouTube channel for over 6 years. So I want to get started with this. But you know what? I want you to watch it all the way through. Okay? And right now, just do it. Do it right now, okay? I want you to leave a comment. Even if it's a heart or highly, something like that. I'll wait. It's down there, okay? I know. Leave me a comment. It does help me out. And of course, subscribe and give me a thumbs up on it. Now, as you watch it through, you might have some questions or you might have a story to tell me. I love your stories. So then you can leave another comment and you can do it and leave the whole thing moving along. You don't have to stop it to leave a comment. Let's get started, okay? Now, highways, who built them and how they came to be. But there's a difference. You got highways. Those are interstates, you know, like I-10, I-40, but you also have major routes. And those are called U.S. highways. Those were first. So I'm going to tell you all about them. Don't you go nowhere, okay? Now, highways and major routes. Okay, the pros. You know, some people say, well, I like the byways. I want to travel the byways, you know. And if you're like me, I'm like, give me the highways. Okay, I do feel safer on a highway than a byway, and we'll go over the pros and cons, okay? Highways, they have large lanes, better lighting, better shoulders. Yeah, if you run into trouble, have you ever tried to pull over on a byway? Yeah, it's pretty difficult. Okay, and then you got more traffic, you got safety in numbers, and you got clear signage and exits. Yes, okay? You got patrols visible, less good old boy nonsense, okay, with the byways. And you got direct, faster, easier navigation. Okay, now for the cons of highways, you have heavier traffic. Well, there you go. And you have more semis zipping past. Sometimes, but not always, you may have less landscape beauty, right? Sometimes you have boring landscape. And less small town charm. That's if you like small town charm. It's hard to say, small town charm, yeah. And you have a better chance of getting pulled over for quotas. You can be an easy target on a highway. The highways, the interstates, or the U.S. highways. Now, let's do the byways, okay? The byways. You got scenic views, you got old towns, you got quirky little finds, right? You have less traffic and slower pace. sometimes shorter mileage, right, between points. But the cons, I know, I'm not much of a byway person. Okay, unless I actually want to go there and visit it. I'll do byways to get there. But just to travel on, you have narrow, dark, few shoulders. Eeks. Easy to get lost or misrouted. And I'll tell you a story because I was on a byway. It's good, so hang on, okay? You have speed traps and good old boy deputies out there with their speed gun, just waiting. Because they need money in their little towns, So, and they can be isolated, less help if you break down. Feels riskier for solo travelers, okay? So, there's a difference. For your highways, I included interstates and the U.S. highways, the old U.S. highways. And then the byways would be like going through small towns, things like that. But a lot of people consider now the U.S. highways as sometimes being the byways. So it can get confusing on what these are. So that's why I'm kind of going over this, because you're going to be traveling. A lot of you are getting started. Yes, you're going to, this late fall, you're going to get started. A lot of you are telling me that. And even if you're not getting started right now, you will. And especially, you might just want to go traveling. You might just want your minivan to be a camper van. You don't want to sell your home or put in your notice with your landlord. You want to just, use your van or your car, your SUV for a camper van so that you don't have to buy hotels. But this is still very appropriate for if you go on vacation or if you do it full time. Let's see what the highways and the byways are all about, okay? Now, how did the highways get started? The early roads. Before the interstates, America had the U.S. highways. And the system started in 1926. They have black and white shield signs. Okay? The U.S., the interstates have a different color. So these routes are like Route 66 and US 20, US 1. They connected towns, but often wound through every main street, okay? It's one of the reasons the interstates were built, because to avoid having to go right through and having to travel through town, because traffic would just be, enormous if that happened, if they were still there doing that. So, and also the car boom. By the late 40s and 50s, traffic exploded. How's that for an explosion? Okay. Boom. And those old highways couldn't keep up. Okay. So the U.S. highways aren't true byways. They're still big roads. They're part of the national system. They're still going. Okay. There's a couple, I'll mention a couple later down the road that really they've been discontinued. So this was Eisenhower's big idea, big. President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1956 signed the Federal Aid Highway Act, the birth of the interstate system, okay? Why? 2 reasons. He'd seen the German Autobahn in World War II, fast, military efficient, and could move tanks and troops. Okay, so America needed safer, faster travel for cars, for commerce and national defense. So who paid for this? Who paid for this big thing? I mean, it was, can you imagine the cost of this? It was funded mostly by federal gas tax. Pennies per gallon at the time. Yeah. I mean, really, at that time, gosh, gas probably was, 10 cents a gallon? Yeah. Because I know when I started driving in the graduated in the early 70s, I mean, it was what was it, like 50 cents a gallon, maybe 30? Yeah, it wasn't that expensive. But so was my pay. My first job was $1.90 per hour. Okay. But I did fine. Yeah. Okay. So then states built the roads, but the feds covered 90% of the cost. Okay. And some states did better jobs than others, right? What makes interstates different? Okay. They have mile markers and exit numbers for navigation. That makes it so much easier. And they set it up so cool. Even numbers go east and west, like I-10 goes east-west, I-40 east-west. Odd numbers go north and south. Did you guys ever know that? I mean, I did learn that, but it wasn't that long ago. And I really started learning it when I became a nomad. I mean, it became crucial to know. And I started noticing all these things. Well, when I go here, yeah. So they were designed with defense in mind. Rumor said, there's rumor, yeah. It's more than myth now, but rumor was saying that every 5th mile had to be straight for planes to land. And it says, half true, more myth than law. Okay, there you go. Let's do some fun facts. Okay, here we go. 48,000 plus miles of interstate today. Only 1% of roads in America, but they carry 25% of all traffic. Okay, here's the longest of an interstate is I-90. It's 3,020 miles, and it goes from Seattle to Boston. Boston, yeah. Now, the southernmost coast to coast, I-10, it goes from California all the way to Florida. I-10. I-10 runs through Tucson, so I-10 is very important to moi, right? Okay, here's a fun fact. The most expensive mile is in Boston. Boston. A single mile, it's called the Big Dig, cost $14.6 billion. 1 mile. Why? I did some research. Why? They basically were digging under an active city, and it meant relocating utilities, avoiding old subways, and reinforcing historical buildings. Oh my gosh. Construction stretched over decades. Oh my gosh. It started in 1991 and it ended in 2007. Oh my gosh. And one of the big things, there were many reasons, but I don't want to tell you every one of them. Another one is they had to tunnel through clay, fill, and water. Boston sits on reclaimed marshland. Yeah, $14 billion for 1 mile. A single mile. Okay. The shortest interstate is in Detroit. It's I-375, and it's less than 1 mile long. So if you know, remember I said even numbers go east and west, but odd numbers go north and south. So this would be a north and south, I-375. Okay. Now, US 20 versus I-90. US Highway 20 is actually longer than I-90, because I mentioned for interstate, that's the longest. The true coast-to-coast champion really is 3,365. That's US Highway 20. Okay. Now, Route 66. Now, you know, that's famous. And I travel Route 66 almost every day because it runs right through Flagstaff, okay? The nickname is they called it the Mother Road. Remember the show Route 66? It was built in 1926, replaced mostly by I-40, but still one of the most famous highways in the world, Route 66. Now, probably it was one of the first, but probably because of the show. Don't you think the show would make it pretty famous? Yeah. Okay. Mile markers double as exit numbers. Listen to this. I'll say it maybe twice for you because I had to read it twice. Okay. If you're at exit 150, this example, you're 150 miles from the state border. Okay. Handy for quick math while driving. Yeah. So if you're on exit 98, you're basically 98 miles from the state border. There you go. Now, welcome centers. We talked yesterday about rest stops. Here's a cute one. Welcome centers. In Florida interstate, welcome centers hand out free orange juice. Okay. If you're thirsty and you need some vitamin C, run to Florida, okay? Me. Okay. Interstates and defense. Part of the reason for the system was Cold War defense. Highways were designed so tanks, trucks, and even planes in emergencies could use them. Okay. Now, the bridge record. The highest interstate bridge is the Greenwood Canyon on I-70 in Colorado. It's incredible engineering across the Colorado River. Yeah. Okay, rest area culture. We talked about rest areas. But that's part of the highway system, interstate highways. Nebraska is famous for having 25 rest areas along I-80, spaced every 38 miles. Meanwhile, I know, because I'm in Arizona. Meanwhile, Arizona is notorious for closures. Ain't that the truth? Because a lot of you van lifers, you're in Arizona or you travel Arizona. Is that not the truth? And Google doesn't always let you know that it's closed. Yeah. Okay. Interstate 10, I-10, is one of the most important highways in the U.S. Well, it's also important for closures of the rest areas. Okay, the western end is in Santa Monica, California, right at the Pacific Ocean, near Los Angeles. Well, yeah. Now, the eastern end is in Jacksonville, Florida, the Atlantic Ocean. Wow. Woo. Woohoo. Yeah. So the length is about 2,460 miles. The southernmost coast-to-coast interstate in America. Okay, so I wrote this down because I love, I-10, right? These are the major cities along the way. You got Los Angeles, Phoenix, Tucson, El Paso, San Antonio, and Houston. You got Baton Rouge, New Orleans, right? Let's say it right? You got Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Tallahassee, and at the end is Jacksonville. Did you know that? Well, now you do. Okay. How am I doing on time? Because I got that story to tell you. So don't go anywhere, okay? Fun fact, Texas alone eats up 880 miles of I-10, more than a third of the whole road. Oh, yeah. Now, let's talk about byways. Do I like the byways? Not so much. Not for traveling. I might want to go visit something. If I go, of course I got to go through the byways. But for regular travel, nah. Okay, so now byways, let's talk about the Horseshoe Project that was going on in the late, how do you even say it? The late 2010s? First started, there was in Dallas, there was called the Horseshoe Project. Okay, so, and in Texas, they've got these little road watts called FM roads. Have you ever heard of an FM road? Well, they got them. They're old roads called farm to market. They also have RM roads, which is ranch to market. Okay, they're just these little roads. They're almost like one lane. Okay. So it sounds cute, right? Okay, so let me tell you about my story. and then we'll end this. Well, when I first was traveling across, okay, the country, I mean, I was new at this. I was just learning how to use Google Maps. I was pretty new because, I mean, previously, I mean, I was in Tucson, but I was raising children, and a lot of it was on my own because my husband was killed in a car accident. So I was not doing a lot of traveling. Okay, I was raising children and working. Well, when I became a nomad, when I started my van life adventure, I stayed in Tucson for 2 months, and then I was moving across. I was going to Ohio, where my daughter and my son-in-law had been transferred. Well, I knew and I heard all along the way, and I could even see on Google Maps, you know, those angry red roads where that means that, you know, traffic is totally backed up. Okay. So I was heading towards Dallas, and I stopped to get gas. It was at a convenience store, gas station. And so the fella, he looked pretty nice, and I was all chatty because I've been alone for all this time. And I said, hey, I hear there's a lot of construction. And he goes, oh my gosh, yes. And I said, well, do you have any suggestions? So he took out a piece of paper and he wrote things down, how to avoid going around. And I believe the horseshoe, because I think 20 is down here going around Dallas, 20, and then 30, I think, goes kind of through it. And I'm not sure up here. Okay, oy vey shmia. So I think he had me go on a road even below 20 to avoid it all. Well, I did. Okay, I listened to what he said. But after that, I didn't know where to go. And Google Maps, and I'm driving, and I got lost, and it was dark. I mean, by then it was nighttime, and it was dark. So I remember talking to my daughter about it, and finally I just stopped, and I looked, and I believe I wanted to find a Planet Fitness because this was before COVID, and they were open 24/7 at that point. So, you know, that's where I was pretty much staying, was in Planet Fitness. Well, I think I got to Terrell, made it to Terrell, Texas, and I stayed overnight at a Planet Fitness. I went in, and I don't know what I did. I think I went in, but it was in this weird rundown plaza, you know, the old kind where you had like 5 businesses there, business stores. And it was a decrepit parking lot. So I was like, okay. So I got up really early. It's like, I got to get out of here. I got to get going. So I got up really early, made my coffee. Yeah. And took off, and I wanted to hop up to I-30. I think, yeah, I-20 or I-30. I wanted to get there. Well, I'm going to tell you what really happened so you can so you don't have to like what's going on in the story. I obviously, when it was all over and said and done, I realized what I did. I was tired. I was confused. I was probably still sleepy. I should have probably just slept in. But my finger obviously hit Google after I went to put it in, and my finger hit something, and it pinned it, and I pressed start, and it took me, oh my gosh, to a weird byway. And I'm thinking, I don't know the area at all. And I'm new at this. So what happened was, as it started getting, and it's really dark, and the road's getting narrow, and I thought, wow, what? It's incredible that I have to go this far to get on a highway. Well, then it started getting, I was really felt like I was in some horror movie. What it took me onto was an FM, a farm to market, which is barely, it's definitely a one-laner, but 2 lanes, cars would have to get over to go around. It got spookier and spookier, okay? Oh, first I'm driving. I don't see a lot of houses around, and I see a possum go scurry across the road, and I'm thinking, we're not in Kansas anymore. Oh, yeah. that's the first time I've ever seen a possum. And I think an armadillo went by, but I definitely saw a couple raccoons then. And I'm like, where the heck am I? Please hurry up and get to I-30. And I should have just looked, but I didn't. Okay. I was dense then. Okay. I was just getting started as a nomad. Then off to my left, I see an old cemetery. You know, the old cemeteries. And I'm like, I wasn't sure if I was going to start seeing. I really did think, what if I break down out here? I could be killed. And I almost could see Jason with his mask on, walking with a knife, you know, coming down the road. I felt like I was in a horror show. Yeah, I was in a horror movie. And all of a sudden, I'm driving like, I gotta hurry up, get out of here. When is it gonna happen? And then I hear, you've arrived. You've arrived. You know how Google used to say that? I don't know if they still do. You've arrived. And I look over, and the pin is right there. I'm looking at my map going, what? And I see this, it's a sign that says something Grove. And up ahead, I could see a small house, an old house, probably used. And I'm like, what in the world? Where? I was so confused. Well, that's when it's like it clicked. Oh my gosh. I obviously, because I could see the pin right there, I obviously hit something. And I happened to hit that. I later found out it's called Locust Grove. And back there was Locust Cemetery. I'm not kidding. And so I got on Google Maps very quickly and put in I-30 and got me out of there. And I think it was like maybe 15, 20 minutes. When I saw it, I was like, thank you, God, thank you. I was never so happy to get back to see an actual highway. I think that had a lot to do with my feelings of highways and byways. That was really scary. If I had broken down, I would have been terrified, because it had that whole feel to it. You know, unusual animals I wasn't used to seeing scurrying by the road. They go across the road in front of me with my headlights on them. They'd look at me, you know, and then scurry across. Yeah. Okay. So, and now the town is called Hiram. And it used to be, I have a lot of information on it at this point, but I won't bore you with it. But yeah, it's from the early, it was a agricultural grove, and which makes sense, the FM, and yeah, it was created it came to be in like the late 1800s. It's historical. It's not registered historical, but it is historical. Okay. So so just know, be careful when you hit Google Maps. Okay. Be careful with that, and check it over twice. Yeah. Check it twice to make sure that's where you're going. Okay. And get plenty of sleep. Don't start driving confused. Okay. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah. Highways and byways, and the difference between interstates and U.S. highways, and the difference of when they were built, what they were built for. And pretty cool. I've got more for you, so keep watching every day. I've got more. Oh yeah. I've got how to handle when you're going across tolls and bridges, because if you're going to be traveling, you're going to have them. What are you going to do? Do you sit there and pay right there, or do you have to join like fast tracks, easy pays, things like that? I've got so much for you, and I've got like equipment you're going to need when you're traveling. So I want to be helpful for you. I'm your helper. I am your newbie helper getting started. And I just love you guys, and this is a lot of fun doing this. So I know this is a long one, so I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow, okay? How to live it in a minivan, the Minivan Lee way. And 8 years living in my minivan, Van Life Chronicles. They're both really, really good and useful. This one, the story is in there, okay? And a lot of things are in there of my travels over the years, mishaps and fun things and things like that, fun facts. And then this is going to help you get started in your minivan life, in your van life. It's not just for minivans, it's for all sizes of rigs. Yes, okay? Mwah. Love you guys. Bye. Yeah.